a global nerf to all heroes' base gun damage and gun growth. Oh boy, you know this patch is going to be something special. Let's get into patch notice. I'm your host, Jacky. Valve have released another update for the 19th of January. This time around, it's a balance patch, tweaking quite a few heroes in the game, with, as I said earlier, some major overhauls to gun damage. All of the gun damage tweaks you see inside of this video are not factoring in the global adjustment as well, so things have gotten pretty crazy out in the cursed apple. Exploding Uppercut has had some tweaks to it. Bebop in this patch has actually been revised a few times. You can see that the hook at tier 1 has been reduced from 30% weapon damage down to 25%. Obviously Bebop's been pretty powerful out there recently. It feels like the hook combo into the exploding uppercut alongside the bombs has been absolutely thrashing people. A lot of debate about this, so across the board here, a little bit of a reduction in terms of his explosive capabilities. That's going to be a damage reduction and even a tier 2 damage increase reduction for Sticky Bomb. So those bad boys shouldn't be blowing you to Kingdom Come as easily anymore. Bebop's still incredibly viable though, and absolutely always going to be one of the big favourites in the cursed apple. Moving on, let's have a look at one of the newer characters that has received some balance tweaks inside of this patch. Calico. Calico this time around receives a buff. That's going to be bullet damage increase, going up from 2 to 2.2. A slight increase there, making her weapon slightly more viable. Of course, factor in the reductions as well though, so you will middle out. It's not going to be that crazy of an increase. Leaping Slash has also had some tweaks to it. That's going to be an increase in terms of its tier 2 as well, up from 50 to 75, allowing you to leap around and slash people up a little bit more effectively. And if you're someone that likes breaking open the crates and golden idols that are scattered throughout the streets of New York, well, you're in luck. You can now do it as Ava. Of course, the cat form, one of Calico's new abilities, Ava, that allows you to run around and scamper undetected on the minimap. If you run into a box now, it will instantly shatter in front of you, and you can do it even quicker than pre-patch, 10% quicker, up from 25 to 35% movement speed. Pretty sick there for any of the cat lovers. Let us know down below if you're enjoying playing as Ava the cat. I've certainly been enjoying playing as Holliday though, and Holliday has received a couple of tweaks here as well. Of course, like I was saying previously, due to the global reduction, they've had to play around with some of the numbers here, so bullet damage growth is going to be buffed on her, up from 1.5 to 1.7. Again, it's not that drastic when you think about how this is going to level out in the long run, but these are cool changes. Crack Shot. Crack Shot is now going to trigger on units. Bear in mind, you will still need to hit the head hitbox for it to actually proc. Reset on the cooldown is going to be half as long if it's used on an NPC rather than an actual enemy. We've also had some general tweaks to Crack Shot's damage output and the way that it operates when smashing people in the head in lane. Powder Keg as well has gone down by 20 points of damage. That's going to be tier 2, down from 140 to 120. So the Donkey Kong explosive plays are still viable, but just a slight reduction there in terms of the damage capabilities. Moving on, let's bounce right into what else they've changed. Bounce Pad has just had some minor bug fixes. Really, this is to do with dealing damage to a tethered enemy for the game, factoring in your height when it comes into crashing into the ground. Alongside that, we can have a quick look at her ultimate. Of course, this is what I'm talking about here, being able to hit those bounce pad leaps into applying the correct amount of damage. Alongside that, Spirit Lasso's duration has actually gone up. That's going to be a very minor increase on that bad boy, up from 0.5 to 0.75. Just a quick one here for Kelvin as well. So don't get your hopes up for the big ginger man to make an incredible return and be super OP off the back of this patch. It's more of a minor tweak. That's going to be 50 extra HP gifted to him, up from 600 to 650. Another one of the classic aim heroes though, for any of you Holliday fans, Mirage. Now Mirage, it's not to do with his gun, it's actually just going to be his fire scarabs that have had some health related stealing tweaks adjusted. Again, not a major one there, worth having a look at if you hit pause, have a little scroll through. Shiv though has had a couple of tweaks, and it's interesting to see that again he's one of these heroes that has actually had his gun damage base level brought down very slightly. So even with the global nerf, a little bit worse for wear there. So he's going to be coming out a bit weaker when it comes to chunking creep camps, chunking players. So factor that in. You're going to have to get used to these changes, of course, with the actual DPS output. You're going to be able to bring out on the streets of New York. Slice and Dice also undergoes a similar level of changes, and we can move on to bloodletting. Bloodletting actually does get tweaked a little bit here. That's going to be the damage duration, of course, getting that reset off. That's going to be down from 13 seconds to 12 seconds, so reduced slightly there, and even the cooldown being increased. So some more tweaks to Shiv and a lot of tweaks to gun-related heroes. Someone that has been absolutely broken though, and a hell of a hero on the streets, has been the main man formerly known as Magician. Rabbit Hex felt really bizarre in the way that it's been working when you're stacking that alongside Vexing Bolt. Feels like it's just ripping you to shreds in lane. So Valve obviously stepped in here, applied a couple of tweaks. Rabbit Hex in terms of self-cast or being cast on you, obviously it said that it was going to increase your movement speed. Now it actually will. You can feel like there is a bit more of a movement speed increase this time around with the tweaks that have been made. They've shut down any of the speed run earn runs that were going on. If you didn't know, similar to Ava, of course, being able to pick up the earn and run with it as a cat, this was the mad one for Sinclair, is that effectively you could set up a quick TP line with your assistant, grab that urn, TP across the map, and deposit that bad boy. So to combat that, you now drop the urn automatically when going for a teleport. Alongside that, there's also some tweaks made to his assistant and to Vexing Bolt. Base damage down from 120 to just 110. Not a major nerf, but with how hefty it was previously, any nerf is a good one. Cooldown is going to be up by 10 seconds for Spectral Assistant. This is what I was talking about here. And that duration being brought down slightly as well, making it more awkward for players to abuse it as technically a very quick reposition when it comes to strategized rotates rather than getting in or out of fights. Vindicta has also undergone a couple of changes. If you had your ears about you in a previous patch, you would have realized actually they changed her footstep sound slightly. Now they've actually tweaked her footstep move speed. That's going to be down by 1 unit from 9 to 8. Bullet velocity as well is coming down quite significantly here from 810 to 740. So that velocity on her weapon really falling off now inside of this patch. Vyper though was the big ticket item, wasn't she? Everyone was worried about this incredible damage, just ripping lobbies to pieces. So Valve have really brought down the bullet damage there from 9 to 7 on the Rattler, the signature weapon of this slivery snake. They've also gone ahead and reduced the base move speed as well from 7.3 to just 7, and that bullet resist that you get when sliding, innately obviously what makes her so strong outside of her base squishy HP, that's also been brought down to try and balance things out a little bit. Lethal Venom as well, that's going to have 20 damage taken off of it, so you shouldn't have as much burst damage off the back of that bad boy. So tweaks there to Vyper. They are playing around with her and seeing if they can get her more in line, I guess, with what people would like, because it feels like she was absolutely ruining everyone in games with her initial iteration. Wraith has also had some similar tweaks, following in line from what we were talking about with bullet damage effectively being adjusted on a lot of these heroes. Card Trick though has had its spirit scaling reduced. That's down from 1.1 to 0.9, alongside its cooldown being increased from 0.65 to 0.75. Summon rate as well is being played with here when it comes to damaging NPCs. So a lot of adjustments onto Wraith, worth playing around with her. Of course, even with her newer ultimate, this isn't a stun anymore, right? This is a lift that slams them into the ground alongside that slight silence. Yeah, they're still playing around with this, trying to get the right sort of cast time delay on it, make it feel a little bit more reactive, really a bit more usable. It feels like it's kind of got a bit awkward for me since the change. Obviously not really as much of a point and click hero these days. You want to use that as a slam into a silence to get extra DPS output out. Well, they've made it so you go a little bit higher up in the air, a bit more increased damage, a little bit more responsive. That's effectively the changes that we see there with Wraith and her ultimate telekinesis. Moving on, lastly, it's Yamato, another one that has been tweaked when it comes to bullet damage growth. You're going to be down from 0.27 to 0.24. So when you factor in as well the actual 10% reduction globally that's been brought in inside of this patch, yeah, Gun Yamato should be well and truly in the coffin. No time to bury her 6 foot deep. Valve have put her under 2 foot shallow. Let's have a look though at the deep item changes. Of course, we've had a couple of them that have been adjusted inside of this patch. First and foremost, it's going to be extra stamina that has had its fire rate reduction increase brought down by just 1%. That's from 5% to 4%. Of course, this is more of a vitality item, feels fair enough. Bring that fire rate down, especially with the ridiculous fire rate we're seeing on some heroes in the game right now. Alchemical Fire as well, effectively just having its overall base damage and effectiveness brought down to make it a little bit less strong. We were seeing a lot of play with Alchemical fire in the past couple of weeks alongside the synergies there, so that's just going to be tweaked slightly. Hunter's Aura as well. This is another one that is getting some tweaks in terms of bullet resist reduction and fire rate slow, so keep that in mind when you're out there hunting, you Baxter Society members. And lastly, it's going to be Sharpshooter that has had the weapon damage increase brought down from 30% to just 20% and move speed penalty increase. That's going to be up by minus 0.5, so that's -1 now in terms of your move speed penalty. Definitely something to think about. But that's it for your patch notice. Hope you've enjoyed today's video, got you up to speed with everything you need to know. Get back out on the cursed apple streets, get subscribed to Dead Air. I've been your host, Jacky. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy the high quality Deadlock content we produce, please subscribe, and we will see you next time.